It was a rainy evening when I decided to stop by my son Daniel's house. He hadn't returned my calls for 3 days, which was unusual for him. As a mother, you know when something is wrong. My instincts told me that silence wasn't just about being busy. It was about something much darker. When I pulled up to his driveway, the lights inside the house were dim. The curtains were half drawn, and the atmosphere felt cold, almost lifeless. My heart pounded in my chest as I rang the bell, but no one came to the door. I tried again. Still nothing. I had a spare key that Daniel had given me years ago. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The living room was unusually quiet. No TV. No music. Just silence. His shoes were at the door, so I knew he had to be home. I called out his name, no response. My stomach twisted. Something was wrong. I walked slowly toward the kitchen, the place Daniel always liked to sit with a cup of coffee late at night. But the moment I stepped in, I froze. My hands flew to my mouth as my eyes widened in disbelief. The scene in front of me was something no mother should ever have to witness. And that's when I knew. I had no choice but to dial 911. The kitchen was dimly lit, a single bulb flickering above the table. At first, I couldn't even process what I was looking at. Daniel sat slumped in a chair, his face pale, his hands limp on the table. But it wasn't just him that sent shivers through me. It was everything around him. The countertops were covered with strange containers, some filled with powder, others with liquid. Sharp tools lay scattered across the surface, none of which looked like they belonged in a kitchen. There were even sealed plastic bags stacked near the sink. My mind raced, trying to understand what I was seeing. "Daniel!" I screamed, rushing to him. He groaned faintly but didn't open his eyes. The smell in the air was bitter, chemical, unnatural. It burned my nostrils and made me cough. Panic surged through me. "Wake up, son. Please wake up," I cried, shaking his shoulders. He barely stirred. His skin was clammy, his pulse weak. My knees buckled as realization struck. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't just dangerous, it was life-threatening. With trembling fingers, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. My voice cracked as I spoke. "My son, he's unconscious, there are chemicals everywhere, please. Send help quickly." The dispatcher's calm voice tried to guide me, asking questions I could hardly answer, because fear had taken over. My hands shook uncontrollably as I checked his breathing, trying to follow their instructions. I kept glancing at the strange equipment around me. Fear gnawed at my mind. What had Daniel gotten himself into? As the dispatcher assured me that help was on the way, I whispered to myself, "Please, God, don't take my boy from me tonight." Within minutes, the faint wail of sirens echoed down the street, growing louder until flashing red and blue lights filled the windows. My heart pounded with both relief and terror. I rushed to unlock the door as paramedics and police officers stormed inside. The paramedics didn't waste a second. They dropped their bags, rushed to Daniel, and began working on him. One checked his pulse, another prepared an oxygen mask, while a third inserted an IV line with practiced urgency. "His breathing is shallow, but we've got him," one of them said, giving me the smallest glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, 2 officers swept into the kitchen. Their eyes scanned the countertops, the containers, the bags, and their expressions shifted from concern to something much darker. "Mom," one of them said firmly, "you need to step back. Don't touch anything." I froze, my chest tightening. What is all this? What was my son doing? The officer exchanged a grim look with his partner before replying. "We don't know yet. But this," he gestured to the cluttered table and chemical stench, "is serious. It looks like an illegal setup." My head spun. Illegal? My son? No, this had to be a mistake. Daniel was struggling financially, yes. But he wasn't a criminal. He couldn't be. As the paramedics lifted him onto a stretcher, his hand twitched weakly, and for a split second, his lips parted as if he wanted to say something. But no words came out. The police began photographing everything, placing evidence markers, and sealing off the kitchen like it was a crime scene. One officer turned to me and said, almost apologetically, "We'll need to ask you some questions." Ma'am. For your own safety, please cooperate. I clutched my chest, barely holding back tears. My son was fighting for his life, and now I had to face the possibility that I didn't really know him at all. As Daniel was carried out on the stretcher, I whispered desperately after him, "Please. Son. Don't let this be the truth. Tell me I'm wrong." I followed the ambulance to the hospital, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My mind spun in circles, fear, denial, anger. Every emotion colliding at once. When I arrived, Daniel was already being rushed into the emergency ward. A nurse stopped me at the doors, her voice firm yet kind. "Please wait here, ma'am. The doctors will do everything they can." The minutes dragged like hours. I sat in the hard chair, staring at the sterile floor, replaying everything I had seen in his kitchen. Containers, strange powders, sealed bags. The officer's words echoed in my head, "Illegal setup." After what felt like forever, a doctor finally appeared. His expression was serious, but not without compassion. "He's stable now," he said. "Your son suffered respiratory failure due to chemical exposure. He'll need time to recover." I let out a shaky breath of relief. He was alive. But the relief lasted only seconds before a police officer stepped forward from behind the doctor. His notebook was open, his tone brisk. "Mom, we need to ask some questions. Did you know your son was operating a lab out of his kitchen?" The word lab stung like a knife. "No," I whispered. He's my son. He's not a criminal. There must be some mistake." The officer shook his head. "What we found was not a mistake. There were hazardous chemicals, large quantities of substances that can't be explained as household use. We'll know more after the lab tests, but this isn't small." My heart cracked wide open. My Daniel, the boy who once built Lego castles in the living room, now lying unconscious because of something that could destroy him. When I was finally allowed into his room, he looked pale, fragile, tubes running from his arms and nose. His chest rose and fell shallowly, but he was breathing. I sat by his bed, holding his cold hand, whispering like I used to when he was a child. "Why, Daniel? What have you done to yourself?" His eyelids fluttered, and for the first time since the nightmare began, he opened his eyes just enough to look at me. His voice was weak, almost broken, but the words were clear. "Mom, I didn't do this. They set me up." Daniel's words hit me like a storm. "They set me up." I leaned closer, my voice trembling. Daniel? Who did this to you?" His lips were dry, his chest struggling with each breath. He closed his eyes for a moment, then forced them open, whispering, "It wasn't me, Mom. I swear. I was trying to help. I took in a friend. He had nowhere else to go." He promised it was just for a while. Then boxes started coming. Chemicals, powders, strange bottles. He said it was for work, for research. I didn't question it. But when I wanted it gone, he threatened me. My stomach twisted. "A so-called friend. Who is he?" I asked sharply, my grip tightening on his hand. Daniel coughed, pain written all over his face. "His name's Kyle. You remember him, from school. He always had trouble with money, always schemes. He dragged me into this mess." "Mom, I didn't touch that stuff. I didn't cook anything. He just used my place. I swear to you." Tears stung my eyes. Relief and dread mixed together. Relief that my son wasn't the monster they thought, but dread because now I understood how deep the danger was. Before I could say another word, the door opened. The police officer who had questioned me earlier stepped in, this time with another detective. His eyes moved from me to Daniel, then back to me. "Mom, we'll need your son's full statement when he's strong enough. But you should know." He paused, lowering his voice. "We already have someone in custody. A man named Kyle Jennings was picked up 2 hours ago, near the state line. He had more supplies in his car, and documents tying him directly to what was in your son's kitchen." Daniel's hand trembled in mine. His voice breaking. "They'll still blame me, Mom. They'll say it was mine. Please, you have to believe me." I pressed his hand firmly, my own voice steady though my heart was shaking. "I believe you, Daniel. And I'll prove it." Whatever it takes. The detective studied me closely, then nodded slowly. If what he's saying is true, then he's been framed. But proving it won't be easy. Kyle isn't talking. I looked back at my son, frail but fighting to stay awake. In that moment, I made a silent vow. No matter how dangerous, no matter how much it cost me, I was going to clear his name. What neither of us knew then was that Kyle hadn't acted alone. And the real mastermind was still out there, watching. The days that followed were a blur of police visits, lawyer consultations, and sleepless nights by Daniel's hospital bed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kitchen. The chemicals, the chaos, and the fear in my son's eyes when he whispered, "They set me up." The police interrogated Kyle, but he wasn't breaking. He insisted Daniel was in on it. Every word he spat was designed to make my son look guilty. For a moment, I feared the truth would drown under Kyle's lies. But then, a break came. Not from Kyle, but from his phone. Hidden in his messages was a trail of conversations not just with Daniel, but with someone else. Someone I knew all too well. When the detective showed me the name, my blood ran cold. It was Daniel's boss, Mr. Roberts. The same man who had visited me at the hospital, pretending to care, telling me he hoped Daniel would pull through. He wasn't just a concerned employer. He was the mastermind. Apparently, Roberts had been running an underground operation for years, using young men in need of money as pawns. Kyle was just his errand boy. And Daniel, he was supposed to be the fall guy. The night I found the kitchen, Roberts had planned for the police to arrive first. It was a perfect setup. But fate, or maybe instinct, led me there before anyone else. My call to 911 had ruined everything. When confronted with the evidence, Roberts finally cracked. His empire of lies crumbled. He was arrested, and the truth came spilling out in court. Kyle testified against him in exchange for a lighter sentence, confirming everything Daniel had told me. Months later, Daniel walked out of that courtroom a free man. His name cleared, his innocence restored. But the scars remained, not just on his body from the hospital stay, but on his spirit. As for me, I'll never forget the moment I entered my son's kitchen and thought my world had ended. In reality, it was the beginning of a fight that uncovered betrayal deeper than I ever imagined. When the verdict was read, I looked at Daniel, his hand clutching mine, his eyes filled with tears. "Mom," he whispered, "you saved me." I shook my head softly. "No, Daniel, the truth saved you." I just refused to stop until it came out. And for the first time in months, I let myself breathe again. Because justice, though delayed, though hidden in shadows, had finally found its way to the light.